Hello, third grade, and welcome to lesson 7-4. For this lesson, we're going to work on solving word problems using the information that we can gather from a graph. So we're going to take all of what we learned about making graphs, and we're going to use what we can see in a graph to answer a word problem. Let's go ahead and take a look at our short video lesson, and then we'll get started.
How can you solve problems using graphs? Think about this problem during the lesson. Angela wants Carly and Monique to have a total of 60 paper cranes. The bar graph shows how many paper cranes her friends already have. How many more paper cranes does Angela need to make in order for Carly and Monique to have 60 paper cranes in all? 4 girls and their work are represented by this graph. From the graph, how do you know who has the most paper cranes and who has the fewest? Carly's bar is the longest, so she has the most paper cranes. Monique's bar is the shortest, so she has the fewest paper cranes. This problem has a hidden question, and you need to find it and answer it. What is this hidden question that needs to be answered before the main question can be answered?
So let's take a look at our graph right here. Now the question was asking us, how many more would Carly and Monique need to have so that they could have 60 altogether? So we need to figure out how much Carly and Monique have altogether first. We know how much each one of them has. We know Carly has 30, and we know that Monique has 10. So first we have to figure out how much they have together before we can figure out how many more they need to make, or how many more they need to get from their friend in order to have 60. So to do this, we need to add. We're going to combine the number that each one of them has. So Carly has 30 paper cranes already, and Monique has 10 paper cranes. 30 plus 10 is going to give us 40. So that's the answer to our hidden question. How many paper cranes do they have altogether? So far, they have 40. Now we can use that information to help us solve the rest of the question, which is finding out how many more they need to get up to 60.
How many paper cranes have Carly and Monique already made? You need to know how many total paper cranes Carly and Monique have already made in order to know how many more paper cranes Angela needs to make so that Carly and Monique can have a combined total of 60. Use the scale to find out how many paper cranes Carly and Monique have each made. What is the scale used in this bar graph? The scale used in this bar graph is 5, so each grid line represents 5 paper cranes. Carly has 30 paper cranes, and Monique has 10 paper cranes. Which equation shows how many total paper cranes Carly and Monique have made?
Select your answer.
Add to find this total. 30 plus 10 equals 40. Together, Carly and Monique have made 40 paper cranes.
Remember, you still need to answer the main question.
Can you answer the main question? Which equation shows how many paper cranes Angela needs to make in order for Carly and Monique to have a combined total of 60 paper cranes?
Select your answer.
So for this question, now it's asking us, so we know that there's 60 that they need to have all together, and they already have 40. So which operation would I need to do to figure out how many more they still need? So how do we figure out how much they need to get from 40 up until 60? we're going to subtract. 60 take away 40 is going to give us 20. So they would still need 20 more paper cranes to get up to 60.
To answer the main question, subtract the number of cranes that Carly and Monique already have from the total number of cranes that Angela wants them to have. 60 minus 40 equals 20. Why do you need to subtract to find the answer? You need to subtract to find the difference between the combined number of paper cranes that Carly and Monique already have and the total number of cranes that Angela wants them to have. Angela needs to make 20 paper cranes in order for Carly and Monique to have a combined total of 60 paper cranes. Now you know how to solve problems using graphs.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our notes and our guided practice. Now, let's take a look at the information that we have here. So we're going to work on solving word problems using the information from a graph. So how can you use a graph to solve word problems? Well, look at the information that's in your graph. Ask yourself, what do they want me to find? And then look and see, are there any hidden questions that I need to answer before I can solve? So I gave you an example of books read by reading club members. Now, yes, you can see that our graph is turned sideways this time, and that's okay. As long as we still have all of the parts of our graph that we need to have, that's totally fine. I have the title, I have the categories, which are the members, the people, and I have the number of books read, and I'm skip counting by twos. So I can see over here that Daryl read up to the 18 line. So Daryl read 18 books, Alice read 16 books, Sandra read 8 books, and Helmer read 14 books. Now, like I told you guys before, you can write the numbers if you want to, if it makes it easier for you guys to remember. You can write them in the bar, 18. I don't know how well you guys will be able to see this one. 16, 8, and 14. So it's not super visible. You can write them on the outside if you want, right outside the bars. That works as well. So my question for you for this particular bar graph is, how many more books did Alice read than Sandra? So what do I have to figure out? Well, I need to look at my bar graph. How many books did Alice read? Well, we know Alice read 16 books. Let me see if I use my marker, if that'll make it easier. There we go. Alice read 16 books and Sandra read 8 books. So if I want to find out how many more books Alice read than Sandra, I have to subtract. I need to find the difference between them. So my question says, write an equation or make a bar diagram to solve. So I'm going to do both to show you guys how to do it. So I wrote down over here what information I had. Alice read 16 and Sandra read 8. So I know 16 minus 8 is going to give me D, the difference between the number of books that they read. So 16 minus 8 equals 8. So I can find out right away that Alice read 8 more books than Sandra. Now, if I was putting this into a bar diagram, I would have 16 on top because that's my whole number. 8 is the part that Sandra read, and D is going to be the difference, the other part. And here I can see again that I would do 16 minus 8. It's going to give me 8, and it tells me the same answer, that Alice read 8 more books than Sandra. So I took the information from my bar graph over here, and I used it to solve my problem. I'll make these a bit darker for you so that you guys are able to read them. Now let's take a look at another example. Let's use a pictograph or a picture graph and use the information from there to solve. Now for this question, I'm looking at the kinds of trees in the park. So the kinds of trees I have are maple, oak, beech, and elm. And I know that my symbol over here, this tree symbol, equals 6 trees. So each tree symbol equals 6 trees. So this is the number of maple, oak, beech, and elm. Now the question is asking me, how many more beech trees are there than elm trees? Now, before I go and subtract this, 5 trees minus 2 trees over here, that's not what I need to do. Remember, each one of those tree symbols is equal to 6. So I need to first find out how many beech and elm trees there are. That's my hidden question. So I need to multiply to figure it out. So there's 5 groups of those 6 trees, right? For beech trees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we know each one of them is a group of 6. So 5 groups of 6 is 30. And there's 2 groups for the elm trees. So 2 groups of 6, which equals to 12. So now that I answered the hidden question, now I can go ahead and find out how many more beech trees there are than elm trees. So I'm going to take that 30 and I'm going to subtract the 12 from it. So 30 minus 12. And I found out that my answer is 18. So there are 18 more beech trees than elm trees in the park. So remember, always pay attention to the scale that you're using because it will change your answer. And then for your guided practice, it says, look at the graph on the previous page, explain why you would add, whether you would add, subtract, multiply, or divide to find out how many more cranes Carly made or Carly has already than Monique. So the question is basically asking you, what operation would you use to find out how many more paper cranes Carly has made than Monique? So we're going to subtract. When we want to find the difference between the two, we subtract. So we know Carly made 30 and Monique made 10. So 30 minus 20 30 minus 10 equals 20. So Carly made 20 more cranes than her friend Monique. For number 2, how does a bar diagram help you to compare data? A bar diagram can show the data, so it's easy to compare and see what has the most and the least by looking at the bars. So remember, the taller bars or the longer bars have the most, and the shorter or the smaller bars have the least. Your last question says, how many more miles did Hal and Victor ride together than Rosita? Now remember, you're using the bar diagram that they gave you in the book. That bar diagram looks like this right here. So we're looking at Victor, Hal, and Rosita. So we know Victor rode 20 miles. Hal also rode 20 miles, and Rosita rode right in between 30 and 40. So that's going to be 35 miles. So I wrote down how much each one of them rode. And then my hidden question here is I need to figure out how much they rode all together, because it tells me how many more miles did Hal and Victor ride together than Rosita. So I need to combine Hal and Victor to figure out how many miles they rode together. So 20 plus 20 gave me 40 miles altogether. And then we need to subtract to find out how many more they rode together than Rosita. So the 40 miles they rode together minus how much Rosita rode, which was 35, equals 5. So they rode 5 more miles together than Rosita did on her own. And that takes you to the end of our guided practice for today. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day, 3rd grade. Take care. Bye-bye.